name is Tom Jesper, and today we are going to be doing our second XPresso tutorial. And today I'm going to be showing you how to use user data inside XPresso. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go up to Object and make a new null. And we are going to name this controller. And then we are going to, you can see down here inside the attributes of this controller, there's something called user data. So we can click that and hit add user data. Now this gives us a variety of different things that we can add to change outputs from the controller. Now it's quite hard to get your head around, but you'll see what I mean at how good it can be. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to create a float. Now we want this float to change the brightness of this material that we have down here. So because the material, now this doesn't actually matter, but because the material brightness is measured in percent, we are going to keep it as percent. But we're going to change the interface to a float slider because it just looks a lot better. Now the default value we always want to have is 100, and that's just the way I work, but of course you can have it as 0 if you want, but I leave it as 100. Now you may think I want to go up in 1% intervals, so you would change the step to 1. Unfortunately that doesn't work, because if you move it down it goes to 0, move it up it goes to 1, because these are actually, they're not percentages, they're out of ones, if that makes sense. So 1 out of 1 is actually 100, or is still 1, but that's 100%. 0 out of 100 is still 0. So what we need to do is we need to work out how much 1% is out of 100, which of course is 100th, which is equal to 0.01. It took me ages to work that out, as I was having a fiddle when I first got this Cinema 4D. But if we wanted, for example, to change it by 0.5% intervals, we would change that 0.01 to 0.005, which would let us go up and down in 0.5%. So we're going to change that back to 1% just for the minute. There we go. So we're going to hit OK. So we now have the slider. We are going to also create this cube just to apply our material to, like so. So if we go to the controller and we slide this slider up and down, you can see nothing happens because it's not linked in any way to the material. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click the controller, Cinema 4D tags XPresso. Now we are going to want to control the material with the controller. So we're going to drag in the controller and we're going to drag in the material. We're going to make this bigger, make this bigger. Now if we click that, we want the user data inside the controller to control the material, which means it's an output on the controller and an input on the material. So we're going to click the output, go down to user data and then brightness. And we're going to click the input of the material, go down to color and then brightness. And we're simply going to pick whip these together. So now if we go back to our controller, you can see in the background here, when we slide the slider, it does affect the brightness. Now that's cool, and you know, it's basically a shortcut from having to go all the way into the material section to then do this, which if you're animating like a material, so 1 second it's black and then the next second it's white, it's so much easier to just come into the controller and change the brightness. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the cube. So we're going to go back up to our user data, add user data. We're going to change this to color, the English spelling of course, and we're going to go to our data type and then go down to color, like so. We want our default color to be white. Okay. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we want to connect this to the color of the material. So we're going to click this output again, go down to user data, color, and then color. Make this a bit bigger. But we're going to want to connect it to the color of this material. Sorry, got a mind blank there. So we're going to click on the input, go down to color, then color, and color again. Make that one the same size. And we're going to drag the color across, which now means that if we go back to our controller, the user data, if we change these sliders to something random, we now get the color that's displayed there. we can still use this brightness to affect its its brightness. Yeah. So we're gonna change this back to white, and there we go. I'll change contrast the brightness up too. So we'll have this cube, and it's brilliant. But all we've been doing is affecting the material, not the cube itself. So say we are going to want to make the cube flash on and off. Now there's a simple way of doing that. If we come into the cube, inside the basic tab, there's something where it says enabled. Now that's a ticky box. And a ticky box inside mathematical, or is it mathematical? Yeah, I would assume it's mathematical equations, is a boolean, where you can have two values. It's either on or off, which is a 1 for on or a 0 for off. So we're going to come up here to our controller, user data, add user data. Now we're going to change this to on/off. And the data type, we don't want to have a float. Well, we could have a float, but it doesn't really make sense. So we're going to change the data type to a boolean or a boolean, which gives us either on when it's ticked or off when it's not. And we want it default to be on, so we're going to tick that. So we're going to hit OK. So we want to turn our material off, so we click it. Oh, it doesn't work. I wonder why that is. It's because we haven't connected it to the XPresso. So we're going to open up the XPresso again. And this time, we're not actually affecting the material, are we? So we're going to drag in the cube. And if you remember, inside the cube, it was inside the basic tab where the enabled ticky box was. So we're going to click the input, go down to basic properties, and then there you see it. There's the enabled. So now we're going to re-add our user data. There it is, the on-off, to our controller, and we're going to connect those together. We'll minimize that, go back to our controller, and there we go. If the ticky box is off, the object isn't there. Ticky box is on, it is there. So I'll just show you this for definite. If we turn it off and then hit render, nothing. Turn it on, hit render, the cube's there. So I think that will be enough for the user data. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you watchers a challenge, I think. Yes, I will. Now this is going to be a regular occurrence on these videos. I am going to set you a challenge to program or make the best thing you can using the stuff I've taught you today. So you know how to use user data to a certain extent, and you know how to link that to a color. So what I'm going to want you to do is I want you to screen record your Cinema 4D file with your controller and with your user data, and I want you to make the best thing you possibly can. Now the winner, we'll have two winners. Sorry, no, we will have three winners. We will have a winner for experience, so people who are already experienced in XPresso. We're going to have a winner for people who aren't experienced, and we're going to have a winner for people who make the wackiest thing. So, for example, we might want one where a slider controls the amount of spots in on a cube or something like that. And you will get a link to your channel inside the description of the video, of the next week's video or the next video whenever it decides to come out. And you will also, but you won't receive any sort of prize apart from being able to be mentioned in these videos. So there we go. And what I'd like you to do is record it and then just set it as a video response to this video, and I will send you a personal message if you win, and I will then feature your video in next week's video. So thank you very much for watching. I am Tom Jesper, so please remember to rate, comment and subscribe to this video and my channel, which you should be able to find in the description. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Peace.